Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm not super new here, but I haven't been posting frequently, so I want to try this new thing out called Glam and a Ghost Story. And pretty much what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about my experience with paranormal throughout my life, and I'll start doing a look while I talk about it. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. And yeah, I hope most of you do, because I'm pretty excited to start doing this and kind of make it a regular thing. So yes, let's get to it. Today I'm going to be doing an everyday look, and I will link the products down below for you. And yeah, okay. So I want to just start from the beginning and say that I don't expect everybody who watches this to be a paranormal believer, and I understand that that is not something that everybody is altogether comfortable with. So I just want to add a disclaimer in right in the beginning. These are just my experiences. I don't expect you to take them as truth if you don't want to. They are definitely true and real to me. Also, I do not have a mental illness that causes me to see things that are not there, just for the record. Other illnesses, certainly, but I mean, there's always time, I guess. I have not been diagnosed with anything that causes me to see things that are not there. So that being said, I'm going to start talking about my experiences now and just start getting the makeup going. And like I said, this is just an everyday basic look. So starting from the beginning, I think one of the earliest times I can recall seeing, well, I've only seen full apparitions maybe 3 or 4 times in my life, 5 times maximum, which I feel is maybe average for people who believe in the paranormal and experience paranormal activities regularly. Just from the reading that I've done in the past, it seems that spirits or ghosts or entities who are able to appear in full apparition are the stronger entities or ghosts. So it doesn't shock me that I haven't seen too many in my lifetime, but the earliest one that I can remember, I must have been maybe 2 years old or so. And the reason why I say that is because my parents had purchased a house right around that time. It was a fixer-upper home, and they were doing a lot of work to the house. So it was in a state of remodel for a very long time. And I mean, even just the outside was in need of some serious help. We had a whole greenhouse set up that was falling apart, so my dad was spending a lot of time renovating that. And even the inside, we had put an extension on that house. So there was a lot of, I mean, I have many stories about this home, and we'll touch on it the more that I do these, because I mean, for anybody who's lived in a home where extreme paranormal activities occur, it definitely takes over your life somewhat. It affects the way that you live very drastically. And I know they talk about that on TV shows and things, but I feel like there are not very many real life accounts of that people are willing to share with you, because others look at you like you're crazy. And I understand why, totally understand why, I get it. But it is very real for some of us. So anyway, my parents had purchased this home that was in desperate need of remodel. I was small, and my sister had not been born yet. So she was born right around, I was almost 3 when my sister was born. So I recall that she was not born yet. And I remember being very small because I wasn't super steady on my feet. So when we first bought the house, the basement was an unfinished basement, and it was real shabby. I mean, your typical dark, dingy, unfinished basement. And in that house, the garage was attached to the basement. There was a door separating, but we did laundry in the garage. So the washer and dryer were in the garage, and they remained that way the entire time we were in the house. So I remember this really vividly. Before we had redone the floors, there was this green tile flooring, like just old green tile flooring that was in the basement and kind of led out to the garage. I believe there may have actually even been some green tile flooring in the garage. Just for the record, we could never fit a car in this garage. It was just way too small and we always had stuff in it and there was just no way we could ever fit a car in this garage. So it just was like a storage space that had the laundry in it. And I have a really vivid memory of my mom walking me down the stairs and just sitting me kind of, I don't know if there was a towel there, I'm not sure, but it was early in the morning, so she had woken me up and walked me down the stairs, carrying me. And she placed me down on the floor, and I just remember it being, I mean, it mustn't have been too cold. Maybe it was in the spring, early spring. It must have been early spring because I remember it being cold in the basement, but not freezing. Not like, you know, unbearably cold. Like, obviously, you're not gonna put a 2-year-old on the floor in a garage / basement area if it's freezing. But, you know, it wasn't like super well insulated down there. Like I said, it wasn't a finished basement, so it was probably like concrete flooring with the tile on top. So she sat me on the floor down there, and I was in the garage, and there was just like one step down into the basement. So I remember vividly seeing my mother take out like some towels from the washer dryer, and I was just kind of like watching her do this like you do as a kid, just like big-eyed, you know, like watching your parents do a mundane task. And I remember peering down and seeing a woman, an older woman, coming down the stairs into the basement. And she was not really a menacing looking woman, just like your typical old grandmother like woman, who she kind of was slowly coming down the stairs. And like I said, she wasn't menacing. Like, it wasn't one of those things where I was afraid of her. I can't remember her clothing that well. I do know she was like fully dressed, shoes and everything, but I just for some reason can't remember her clothing. But I do remember her facial features, and they were just kind of like soft, regular, everyday facial features. Nothing really memorable about her. Possibly light eyes, can't be 100% sure, but I think she had light eyes, and she definitely had like short white hair. Like, it wasn't pulled back in a bun or anything, it was just like cut shorter, and it was very white, like just totally white. And I would say her bangs were kind of like swooped over, but she still had shorter hair, so there wasn't any hanging down below, like below this length. But so she's just slowly walking down the stairs, and she stops about halfway down and looks at me, and I look up at her. And I remember saying to my mom at the time, I remember saying to her, you know, who is that lady on the stairs? Like, you know, who's that? I had pretty good language at that age. I started speaking really early, but I definitely didn't have full sentences or anything like that yet. But I just remember asking her, you know, who's that lady? And my mom, she has had some paranormal experiences in her life. I didn't know that then because I was like a young child, but I guess she was just kind of humoring me, and she just said, who? Like, who do you see? Who is that? And, you know, I said, there's a lady. And she said, where? And I just said, there's a lady on the stairs. And it's interesting because we kind of had this overhang, where the stairs were, we had this overhang, and on the overhang was a painted, it was the head of a Native American chief, so with feathers and everything. So I just have this vivid memory of her standing next to this chief head on the stairs. And my mom just kind of, I remember her just kind of shrugging it off and just saying, I don't see anybody there. And I was like, oh, they're right there. You know, I definitely see them there. And so I'm not sure, we just kind of, I believe she just kind of dissipated after that. I'm not sure the final outcome of it. I just have that really vivid memory from when I was maybe 2 of that. And I believe that maybe a year, I mean, like I said, this house was always very active, so it could have been maybe a year or so after that we started having some trouble within the house, and my mom investigated further as to who this woman on the stairs was that day, because I believe we, you know, at that point, maybe a year or 2 later, so we had other instances occur. It wasn't just that one isolated occurrence. And my mom came to find out from the next door neighbor that a woman had passed away in the house. It was the previous owner's wife. Now, when my mother and father bought this house, the previous owner was no longer living in it. He had sold it from them to them while he was living out of state. I believe he was living in Florida at the time, so he'd sold it to them from him being in Florida. They had never formally met him. And so they didn't know the backstory of the house, but from what they understood after that point, there was a couple living there. They were not happily married. They were older. They had one daughter who actually had the same bedroom as my bedroom when we were living there. And the woman, the mother, turns out her name was Helen, we found out from the neighbor, had actually passed away in the house. She drank herself to death in the house. So this is kind of my first encounter with Helen, but there were many more. And like I said, at the time, she wasn't particularly menacing. At least I didn't think she was particularly menacing at the time. I mean, that perception would change as we owned the house. You know, we had more experiences with her that were not the best. But I will definitely get to those in the next. Sorry, I did not do a good point on my wing. Anyway, we'll get to those in my next video. So I would like to kind of make this a regular thing if possible and see how well it does, because I have plenty of stories and I feel like they would be interesting for others to hear. But I would also like to eventually open this up to other people. So you can send me your stories and I can either speak them for you. I mean, I know this is like a tough topic for most people. You know, they have difficulty explaining things that they've encountered. And so I just felt like this would be kind of a good way to, you know, kind of break the ice about it. And like I said, this may have been not the most interesting story because I thought, let me just start from the beginning instead of explaining who I am and then getting into this at a later date. And I'm going to be linking the product description down below, but this is obviously not anything crazy makeup wise. It's just like your basic everyday makeup. Like I've worn this to work most days and I never put lashes on, but I'll do it today because I'm filming this, but usually I do not wear lashes to work. I mean, what would be the purpose? I don't work in like a beauty setting anymore. So it's just kind of like, I don't need to be wearing lashes to work, but I will put them on today because I'm filming this, like I said. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in the paranormal and you'd like to hear more about my experiences, like something more creepy, not necessarily this experience, because like I said, I know this is not the most interesting paranormal experience. It's just kind of like where it started for me, like having this experience at such a young age. And at the time I wasn't really scared of it because I didn't have a good understanding of what it was. But then as I got older, you know, I was fearful as a child, especially growing up in the house that I grew up in, but now not so much fearful. Are there things out there I believe you should be afraid of? Yes. Do I think that, you know, you should be scared of everything paranormal? Definitely not. I think, especially when it comes to ghosts or things that were actually once human beings, I don't know that you should necessarily be afraid of them, if you know what I'm saying. I think there's more out there that you could technically be afraid of. So I kind of just want this to be a discussion about many paranormal things, not just ghosts in the long run. And I'll focus on my stories for a little while, just to get everybody acclimated with who I am and all that. But I would like for this to be, you know, a little more well-rounded than that. Like not just spirits and ghost stories, and like I would like for it to be more personal, account-based, and not just me. And like I said in the beginning, I want it to be kind of more about me, but then as I get more comfortable, I would like to kind of share it with like-minded people. So if we can go ahead and do that in the long run, that would be really cool. So if you have a ghost story, or if you have a story that you recall being really small and seeing something that wasn't quite right and just having trouble, you know, explaining what it was, or maybe nobody would listen to you. I mean, I was lucky. My mom, even to today, like still listens to me when I have something paranormal occurring. Like my father doesn't so much, like he's just not comfortable with that whole scene, but my mom will definitely always listen to me. Like she's definitely had more experience in that. So I feel like a lot of people just need someplace to talk about stuff like that. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely send me a message, comment, DM, whatever you can. Yeah, I'll link my Instagram down below as well if you're interested. And yeah, I hope that you had just as much fun watching as I did discussing and creating. And yeah, as I get more comfortable, the stories should get more interesting. So I look forward to speaking to more of you in the future. Bye.